Hello, 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 hello. What's up, everybody? How y'all doing today? It's your boy Gia. Welcome to the. Oh, you're fine. Thanks. Yo, Siri is joining us with as well in the beginning of the never. And this is the After Dark edition, completely unedited, raw. We are going to be essentially discussing some of the cool topics for, our current state of the today. The After Dark is the kind of unhinged, a little bit uncensored addition to a show. This was okay. Let me see if I can pull it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Episode 12. Alex Beltran. We have her in the building. Episode 12, right?
20.
No,
This
no.
is 4.
After Dark. Yeah, no. But from episode 12. Yeah, listen, we know what we're doing here. This is a professional show.
All professional.
Yeah, see? What are you talking about? So this is Miss Alex Beltran. She's going to be joining us, and we're going to be talking a lot about politics today. So if you're kind of into that type of thing, and
Or even if you're not, learn something new.
this might be the time to jump into some cool theories here. So yeah, nonetheless, I think it's going to be pretty fun. So without further ado, Miss Alex, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Good. We got glasses. You hear the clanking going. We got the drinks out. We're toasting here. What's up? Welcome. And we're gonna start it off. We'll start off with the heat. So I have a few things I wanted to chop shop with you about, right? And one of the biggest things here is I have a few questions to ask you. It's mainly about political ideology. I want to start there before we jump into kind of like current events, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I have a list of questions. There's a total of 16. And I'm going to ask you to get a better understanding of you. And I would like to go in individual each question that we go through to kind of understand your reasons why behind that.
Okay.
It's up to you if you want to go into it a little bit more deeper on why, or excuse me, if you want my point of view as well, we can do that as well. Whatever you want to do. But I think this might be pretty fun if you're okay with jumping into this direction.
Yeah,
all right,
definitely.
Cool. All right, so we're going to jump in with the heat. So the first thing, okay, if you had to choose, all right, would you rather have a smaller government providing fewer services or a bigger government providing more services?
Big government.
And why?
Because I believe that government has a potential to, and it has a purpose to provide for everyone. And when there's a small government, a lot of corporations take over and take advantage of people, and that's not what we need right now.
Okay, this is interesting. I don't know if you want to pause, you want to keep going, or you want to discuss this a little further?
Yeah, I'm curious what you're...
Okay. I'm very much a smaller government side of person. And my understanding and reason I believe this is that I think when government is too big, it's too hard to rail government back in, right? Corporations is very easy, right? Because they're very specific. All a corporation wants to do is make profit. So a government, on the other hand, is the government, all they want to do is get more power, right? By getting more power, the more power they get, the more they can use that power. Hopefully, right, the hope, right, is they use it for a benefit, right? But most likely what ends up happening is they tend to use it to abuse, right, to abuse their power, which is, I think, is what we're finding out a lot now. We have a much bigger government than normal. So I would definitely be on the spectrum of smaller government. And I guess the better way of me explaining that is that I would like a very powerful government, but my government would be more of an assassin, less of like dropping a nuke, So I like a government. If you wanted to tackle healthcare, I want you to just load up and tackle just health there. I feel like we have a very shotgun theory. Let's just put out these gigantic bills to try to hit things. And I think it's not as effective as just trying to tackle one thing and do that one thing very well. Make a bill just specifically about one thing. And so that's my point of view. I don't know if that changes your mind at all.
No, I get where you're coming from, because if we had like a pure democracy where like your vote like directly was, like, if there was a better way for like elected officials to like directly hear from the voters, or like there was a better like polling system where they could say, oh yeah, everyone agrees that we need health care, or um, we need better transportation locally, or people want more, even like all down to the micro level, like we need more bike lanes. If we had that, if people participated more, then it would be more balanced. But right now, there's not enough participation to make the government work for us, and it is an imbalance of power right now.
I definitely feel like I think you're right. And I think this is why when we get towards the end of this, the big topic of today is localism. So I'm very excited to jump into this with you specifically. But I want to jump to the next question if you're
Yeah.
okay with that. All right, cool. When you say you favor a bigger government providing more services, do you think it would be better to modestly expand on current government services or greatly expand on current government services?
Well, based on like our situation right now, probably um, we're not ready for a radical change. I mean, as it was with the Affordable Care
Sure.
Act, which gave a lot more people coverage, it was still like such a shock, and it took people a while to get used to. And I think even now the government's still trying to figure out how they could provide quality health care to everyone, even though like it's like an immediate need. But government takes bureaucracy takes a while. That's the reality.
One of the things I loved about your story is that you've kind of been through this experience of trying to run for a local election. You've been through this journey before, so you this is kind of running close to home. You kind of want to make a lot of changes, but you also realize that like it's hard to make a lot of changes when you only have a year or two, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
to be able to make a change for if that's a blink of time in terms of the grand scheme of things. And I think I agree with you on. Well, I don't know if I agree with you. I think if you could, it would be greatly
Yeah.
expanded, right? But I'd definitely be more of a modest. I'm very incremental change, though I also understand that the way the world is moving is so fast. Technology is changing. Things are rapidly expanding. You have now AI that's just coming into the just gonna kill a ton of jobs, and so you're almost like, man, we need to start getting ahead of these things. But I feel like sometimes when we make too many changes up front, what ends up oh shoot, so everybody Miles is calling the homie. Hey, you wanna hold on, answer the boy right now. Hit up a Marion. He the homie's calling. But one of the things though is that you don't want to make too many of these changes because you don't want to put yourself in a position where you feel like you don't fully understand the situation yet. Like I think COVID was a really good example of said things, right? Trying to make a dramatic amount of changes, but not truly understanding the situation. And by making those so many changes, our economy got really hurt due to that. Shutting people down and saying, "Hey, you can't go anywhere," but it makes sense due to the fact that like they were thinking, "Oh my God, the world's gonna end if we don't do something now." Um, so I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. You always
Well,
get the
I
final thought.
I also think like during the pandemic, it hurt a lot of people were on unemployment, but I think it also reset the workplace. A lot of workplaces were rethinking. Oh well, maybe we can have a hybrid model, or maybe you can do this from home, and we could support you, and help the environment, because no one was driving, and we're like, oh wow, the sky is cleaner. And
Hey, there's some benefits for sure. To not
so yeah, maybe
contributing
a
to industrialism, I think I agree.
maybe a hard reset is like what we need right now.
So you're more for like reform.
Yes.
Oh, this is interesting. Then I think we're gonna have even better understanding. Okay. Next question. Which of the following statements comes closest to your view? America's openness to people from all over the world is essential to who we are as a nation. Or if America is too open to people from all over the world, we risk losing our identity as a nation.
I say open borders, because like this land was native land, and now everyone came, and it's like, how are you gonna claim that, like, oh, this is only designated for certain people, or yeah, you can't claim that this is
And
like this is your land when this was Serrano land or the Tongva tribe.
native land, right?
Yeah.
But okay, so I'm 50-50 here. I completely agree with you. I think we should have open borders. I'm a very open borders person. Let them in, you know. But I'm also understanding that I don't let people in my house, right? Like I just don't like leave my door open. I don't leave the office doors open. You know, we don't like just let the studio be. You know, we obviously um, we monitor who comes in, who doesn't. You know, there's a process to this, to kind of checking in, checking out. Um, but I always kind of believed in that song, right? This land is your land, this land is my land, right? Like, I kind of always believed in that type of mentality.
Mhm.
Um, but I think you do want to, if you are gonna let people in, you kind of do want the, I don't want to say the best of the best, but you tend to do want to make sure you have the right people coming in, um, uh, to your nation, to your home, because this is home, right? For us, we colonized this area, but at the same time, our goal was to enrich it, and for some, I guess it was very enriched. For others, maybe not so much. So I'm curious on your position of like,
Yeah, well then it's like, well then who is deciding what is the best of the best or what's acceptable? Like it because historically it's been like your skin tone,
sure,
or like people like to brag, oh, I'm like fifth generation, or my great 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 grandfather came on the Mayflower, so like I belong here. But it's like, who is, historically it's been mostly white men deciding who belongs here. So that's my that's why I'm like, you shouldn't be allowed to say like who or who doesn't belong here. um
well, okay, um, so if there's one tribe, right? You have a tribe, right? Who wants to get really close to this river because it has fresh water. And you have this other tribe, right, who's like doesn't have fresh water. Okay. Now, one tribe doesn't have fresh water. The other one does, right? One does not want to give it to the other, right? Obviously, that's not the scenario here, but I'm just putting it into context, right?
mhm.
Does that one tribe take over that land, right? And if they do conquer that land, is it now theirs, right? You kind of understand what I'm saying?
Mhm.
At some point, things change hands, right? Like often, I have a dollar. If I give my dollar to you, it is now your dollar. You know, like you have now whatever you did to earn that dollar, right? Stole the dollar, whatever happened, dollars in your hands. What you do with that dollar is up to you. The hope that, and I agree with you here. I hope that it's all ethical the way these things are happening. But during its time, that's just how conquering was, right? You want to grow, you want to expand, you want to get more things. You tend to conquer. Um, do you kind of feel like that's something that you disagree with?
Yeah, I think colonialism was pretty detrimental, obviously, to the Native Americans.
Huge.
And they were forced to accept uh, these people taking over their land, and then being forced a religion or a culture that, and their culture was basically erased. Like I have native ancestry, but I don't know like what tribes, or because
Mm.
it's pretty like that history's pretty much erased because of colonialism. So that's where I stand.
Get excited. All right. No, listen. I hear you. Next question. In general, would you say experts who study a subject for many years are usually better at making good policy decisions about the subject than other people? Are usually worse at making good policy decisions about the subject than other people? Or neither better nor worse at making good policy decisions about the subject than other people?
Yeah, I would say neither, because as a young person, like I have seen people with a lot of experience and they know what they're talking about. And then, but like a lot of young people, they're undervalued, their opinion is undervalued because we're seen as we don't have enough experience, or we haven't lived long enough to know what's going on. But we are the ones like that are out in the community and know what's happening, and everyone has important input to give.
I think I think I lean towards what you're saying, but I also kind of feel like I don't think that's like okay. Let me if I put this in maybe okay. Um, do you think right based off of your general understanding of me right? And I'm 29. Okay, so I'm not not old. Okay, hold up, boy. Okay, your boy's not that old. Okay, hold up, right? But do you think that I should be in a position to run the entire country of the United States, me as an individual?
Yeah, go ahead if you want to do the work. Then I would say go for it.
But my point here is that like, um, right, I have a cousin, okay, and he's not probably the best at making decisions for his life, his own personal life, right? But putting my cousin into a position of that much power, right, can lead to a lot of bad things happening. And when you have a ton of my cousins, right, making decisions for a large swath of people, thousands upon thousands, millions upon millions of individuals that affect not just our own country, but other neighboring countries and countries of ancestors. You understand what I'm saying? These the small decisions, these individuals with that much in power should be, I think, more wiser and educated in these areas, right? Not just saying in terms of time, but I also believe that even studying something, being an expert or something, uh, we should really be looking for someone who mastered a craft to be able to take on the responsibility of making policies for the entire country. I don't know if you agree with this, or do you still
Well,
feel like
I
young
would
people should still
say,
have that role?
yeah, maybe your cousin shouldn't decide what we would eat because maybe we're just eating hot Cheetos and pizza, like. But maybe there's some way that your cousin can contribute. Maybe he's knowledgeable about like those online like tech scams or like making video games accessible or something like that.
So
I don't know anything about your cousin, but I'm just saying anyone they know something. They have some kind of area that could contribute. I'm not saying they should be in charge of everything, and not everyone has all the answers. Joe Biden doesn't have all the answers. Um,
but this is why I think the question is very specific, right?
yeah, it's
Because it
kind
says,
of
would you?
arbitrary.
Well, okay. Well, it says, would you say experts who study a subject for many years, right? If I had like a hacker, right? This, 13-year-old kid, and all he's done was sit on his computer and like break into Bank of America or like break into like Chase, right? Like you have these little 15-year-old, 16-year-old kids like literally breaking in to like IRS build, like crazy stories. I mean, you heard of Anonymous, I imagine, right?
Yeah.
That's someone I want that expert. Like I would put,
Yeah,
yeah,
because they found
clearly
they've obviously found a
they're good at
hole
their
in your
craft.
wall in your software, your firewall that you didn't realize was there. I think that's the same for other young people on other subjects. They're like, wait a minute, like they see it from a different perspective, and they're like, wait a minute, like we need to think about the disabled people or people that are houseless right now, like
No, and I hear you. I'm just saying that I feel like
you like the experts.
I just like the master of the craft.
You sleep well at night knowing that
I be having,
that's
I dream of the sheep. You know what I mean? Like,
you want the pilot that has like 20 years of experience versus the first time
well, okay, hold up,
pilot.
hold up. But the first time, like, okay, if you put me in a pilot seat, me, okay, like, we dying, and I mean, it's not, it's a full stop. Like, listen, we gonna try. I'm gonna try, but we dead. Like, it's not. It's I mean, like, expect me to land. This, you know what I'm saying? But a first time pilot, like, okay, I get it. But he clearly has spent many years studying that, right? To put himself in a position where he does have the license to do so. You know what I'm saying? Which I think is a whole nother story. It's about license and stuff. But to neither really rare there. I think you answered the question. So you said neither better nor worse, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thinking about increased trade of goods and services between the U.S. and other nations in recent decades, okay, would you say that the U.S. has gained more than it has lost, because of increased trade, has helped lower prices, and has increased the competitiveness of the some U.S. businesses, or lost more than it has gained because of increased trade, has cost jobs in manufacturing and other industries, and lowered wages for some U.S. workers.
Definitely the last one, because I think we need to make more stuff here, and that'll provide more jobs. It'll be quality product, not yeah, it's just quality product. Um, where it's made. You could go visit the person that made it, and they're getting a living wage. Yeah, it's just better for
Okay,
our country.
so yeah, I'm 50-50 today, Sarah. I'm 50-50 today. It's all bad. I'm I think trade has given us the ability and opportunity to get the iPhone. It has put us
Mm.
in a position where we have advanced technology at a level that most countries cannot do, right? So I don't think that, yes, not producing enough in America has made it so we have lost a lot of jobs, but we also have gained jobs due to that, right? Because of distribution. But in California, we have a weird thing, which I would love to talk to you about, specifically warehouses. Every single position, every person that you've talked to, if you have met them in California at one point or day or time, most likely they have worked one warehouse job in their career. Is because warehouses are so big, right? Distribution, trying to send all these goods all over the place, right? But we have kind of offshored all of our pollution to China, and it's giving us a no, okay, not the cleanest air. Okay, I'm not saying it's been like great, but it at least has given us the position to be able to have a better services and goods. Though I do agree with you that we do need to bring a lot more back to the U.S., right? A lot more in-house production, making things here, and on our soil, because that's real GDP, right? But I also feel like it makes it so hard. I don't think it's a net loss for jobs or not. I just think that it just has not given us the position to have more control over what goods we make. And when things like the pandemic happen and like other countries have to shut down everything, if we cannot pick up that production here, like we're screwed. So I just think in terms of crisis has been an issue, but I don't think in terms of like the grand scope of things in terms of work has been an issue. I'm not sure if you have any thoughts about my comment.
I just think we need to make more stuff. I could see like um where certain resources that we it's just too hard to get here. Then obviously you want to outsource it, but we should just keep as many jobs here as possible.
So your goal, you're essentially right, is um, make everything here, distribute everything here, um, obviously process like farms, everything from home, um, and not like outsource for trade.
I mean, obviously we're gonna have some trade, but I just keep thinking of like the worst case scenario. Like, there was a point. Well, we might even go in tour with China, and then what are we gonna do? Because almost everything that we buy is from China.
Troops are. Next question. So, how much more, if anything, needs to be done to ensure equal rights for all Americans, regardless of racial or ethnic backgrounds? A little, a lot, or nothing at all?
We have a lot of work to do.
All right, get excited. And why? And what? How much more? Or essentially, what? What do you think? Some of the things that you want to talk
Um, well, we'll start with the equal rights. The women's equal rights amendment is still under the Constitution. Women are still not considered like an equal party in our country.
about? I think I would agree with you here. I think when it comes to um, transgender rights, and when it comes to women's rights, especially reproductive rights, I think those are two very big things that kind of need to be addressed. Um, so I think we're in agreement here.
Yes.
Get excited. This is a moment, guys. This is a moment. I wouldn't say a lot. I think is that a little or a lot? I guess to put that in subjectiveness, two things. But whatever. We gotta give it where you can. We gotta give it where you can. Okay. So which comes closer to your view about what needs to be done to ensure equal rights for all Americans, regardless of either their race or ethnic backgrounds, even if neither is exactly right? Okay. Most U.S. laws and major institutions need to be completely rebuilt because they are fundamentally biased against some races and ethnic groups, or will there are many sorry while there are many inequities in the U.S. law and institutions necessary to change can be made by working within the current systems we have now.
I mean, I mean, and ideally, I wanna, like I said earlier, we need a reset.
She
Um,
said, blow it all up. She said, burn it down. I see the pitchfork in her trunk. You didn't know that, but she had a torch and a pitchfork in her trunk. Dead ass. I saw it there.
but we have made a lot of progress. I'm not like we have made some progress, and um, I think there's potential that we could build from there. But there's a lot of work to do, and we have to be willing to do the work to make it happen.
Okay. Uh, so, okay, got it. Which of the following statements comes closest to your view? Um, well, let me answer the other question. I don't think. Oh man, I think I do lean towards what you're saying. I don't like the current system. One of the biggest things I think is hard is that you have so much you have to undo. Like you have a lot, um, um, and there's so many things that are written in law and bills, like 3,000 page documents. Like, and there's not like one of those. There's like 10,000
And
of
in
those.
2015, San Bernardino redid their charter because it still had language about slaughterhouses or.
Like so, I agree with you here. I think there should be a big reform. How to do so, I think it's gonna be, I think the real question. But so I'm just gonna say I agree with you there. Now, what would we change? I think that would be the that would be the question here. Okay, so which of the following statements comes closest to your view? Um, Business corporations make too much profit. Most corporations make a fair and reasonable amount of profit.
Corporations make too much profit. I mean,
Can't get a break.
Jeff Bezos. Um, I saw somewhere that said Jeff Bezos could fill I don't know how many rooms with money, and or he makes like I don't know how much money a
How much money did
minute.
Jeff Bezos make? Can we
Like
Google that real quick? I'm so curious. Continue.
I probably can't make enough money in like how much he makes in a second, or
So
it's just the wealth gap in our country is just ridiculous.
okay. So
Like like I worked on a I worked on a campaign.
don't listen to Sarah, okay?
I worked on a campaign in 2016. It
Okay.
was a $9 million came in for that campaign, and I was working on the campaign, and I figured out I made like 0.0017% of that $9 million. Like that's ridiculous.
Okay, so look, that's okay. So I completely disagree with you here. And I'll explain why. I think there's a big problem with this country, specifically about um, the rich for some reason, and I don't understand why. I understand the concept of why, right? That no one should have that much money, but I don't think that's been a problem of people like the rich in terms of like even corporations per se. I think that's just the problem of government. I think government has gave corporations the ability to make as much as they would have to make now, um, by
Mm.
increasing the how much money people can make. Right? No, excuse me, printing of money. Right? Inflation of dollars. It's just if you're gonna print more money and you're a bank, who do you loan most of your money to? Not Joe Show, me and you, right? It's to corporations, right? Because they always asking for more money. so so all this printing goes directly to them, and they use that money to make more money, right? Because if I'm gonna take out a loan, right, you're gonna take out a loan. We're not taking out a loan because we want to lose that. Like we don't want to owe that. Our goal is to make more from that, and corporations just an efficient way of being able to do so. And so I think there's a big problem with this country about like hating the rich for some reason, like having this type of like mentality where the rich is the reason why I'm in the position that I am in because they are stingy. But like, but the reason why we have jobs, right, is due to corporations, and the ability for them to be able to um, take their profits and reinvest them into their employees or to scale their businesses to allow us to scale and become more. This is how you get people who built businesses out of garages and now can be able to influence entire countries because of the opportunities that American can be able to give other individuals. So I don't know if I agree with you here. I think it's really hard for me to say that businesses make way too much. Um, uh, so that's my thoughts. I don't know if you have anything you want to add there.
So yeah, government has become the scapegoat because there is I just found out I like there is a certain threshold that corporations they have to show that they're making money, making profit like at a certain level. Like if you're a company, you have to show that you're making profit, and companies feel the pressure to do whatever they can. But it's like at what cost? The Tyson, the famous Tyson plant, they wanted to stay open during COVID, so they could make a profit, and people were getting sick, and people died. There was another warehouse, I think it was an Amazon warehouse. They stayed open while there was a hurricane coming, and several people died in the warehouse because their sole concern was to make a profit and keep the products moving instead of actually caring about people's well-being. That's what I'm seeing. People in Amazon facility or UPS, their bottom line is to get the product to the place, because they want more business, and drivers have been in the 100-degree heat, have been over, have had heat strokes, and a driver died here in Ontario because he had it was too hot and he had a heat stroke, and he died on the job.
So I'm gonna if you don't you okay with staying here for a second and having this conversation?
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into it. So I think that a very different thing about companies making money. I don't think they make too much money. I think that they're trying to the pursuit of money, right, is the problem. Not that they're making too much money. It's the ethics about getting that money, right? So, for example, you're mentioning that they're overworking employees, putting them in these environments, getting them to be like overstressed and overworked and not giving the proper care that they need, right, to be able to achieve the goals that they have set out for them. And I think that is an absolute problem. But to say that government is the scapegoat here, I think that you're just diverting all of the kind of problems that government has onto the corporations, and the corporations are acting in that way because of the policies and laws that are laid out from the government. So my here's a big example. One of the things you mentioned is like, let's say I am Google and I want to make a huge profit this year, but I can't say that I made a profit this year because if I do, then 50% or 60%, however much, is going to be taken away. So what you end up doing is you take this money and instead of saying, okay, let me make sure that I can make a savings account, like store this money. I have to just reinvest it all immediately, right? Put this back into my business, make it bigger, make it like and reinvest it into bond, like reinvest it in or buybacks when you're buying back your company. Do whatever you can just to try to make sure that you're not losing money. And so what ends up happening is you have these companies who are like using all their money, reinvesting it back in their business, right? But they're also like, shoot, we made the business bigger now. So now we have to, you guys need to make more money to cover the extra cost that we are now, because, or the government's going to come and take it, right? And so this constant chase of trying to not trying to not realize your profits, right, is what's making it a real problem for companies to be able to like for companies be not being so pushy on their employees. And that's how I feel. Companies being pushy on their employees, try to make sure that they can achieve their goals. So I think I agree with you. The ethics are not there. They need to change the ethics of how they achieve their profits. But I think that is not of the problem of the corporation. It is the laws set out from the government. It's the rules that they're playing in.
And I would say there's companies that are doing it right. Costco pays their is known for paying their employees well. None of their employees are on public assistance. They all get a fair wage. In and Out is also another company. Like you start off at a high rate and you could easily become manager, and um, no one's struggling. They don't have to have and from what I understand, no one working at In and Out has to get a second job. But meanwhile, Walmart, half of the employees are on public assistance because they don't make enough to make ends meet, and the top CEOs make all this money, and they find all these tax loopholes. So their company is like they're having their employees on public assistance and taking more money from the government, and meanwhile they're not paying taxes, and
Well, well,
that's the reality
well, a
of
government pays taxes, right? Right. Sorry, corporations pay taxes, correct?
not all of them.
Well, corporations do pay a lot of taxes, payroll taxes. Corporations pay a lot of taxes. Maybe not realized in terms of like I pay taxes in terms of of like profit taxes, right? Like, but they pay a lot of like actual chips and like expenses, buildings, all these things that they have to pay to keep things going, right? But if I were paying for taxes, right, if like I do, we're tax paying people, right? I would want my employees to utilize every single government assistance possible because I pay taxes, right? Now, I understand how that may feel for the employee, right? Because they're like, well, I don't want my employees to be on assistance and things of that nature, which I completely agree. They shouldn't have to be, right? But the question is that if you have these companies who are realizing that, like, wait, my employees I pay taxes, right? My employees can utilize these services to benefit themselves, and I'll still pay them an hourly, well, whatever raise that they have set out for them, right? That's for many, they see that as a win-win scenario. The issue though is that, like, let's say you are making $15 an hour, you're not eligible for those benefits. You actually get stripped away from those benefits. So it's a net situation. So yes, ethically, again, you have these companies like Costco who are able to pay their people what you call a living wage, right? But then you also have the I guess the savvy of Walmart who's realizing like, wait, well, it's gonna balance out to about the same anyway. I'm gonna pay my employees whatever X amount. They're gonna get the X amount from the government. That equals out to a $15 an hour wage, regardless how you see it. If I pay my guys $15 an hour, they're not eligible for those wages. They're gonna be able to receive. I can take that money, reinvest it into my employees, reinvest it to whether it can be bigger facilities, better things, whatever. So what if they're doing that or not? I can agree with you here. If they're just taking all the profits for themselves, but I feel like corporations have every right to do so. Um, just like if I was given services from the government, I'm not going to look down on someone who's going to be utilizing those services, uh, because they're going to play the system. Someone who drives down the freeway and they really want to get to work fast and they need to hop in the carpool lane. I don't blame them. Like, you're not supposed to be in the carpool lane, but like Yeah, they're gonna hop in the carpool lane because they got some place to be, and so those people who corporations who were like, yeah, why would I want to like? No one wants to get their money taken from them, right? Especially if you don't agree where it's going. If government was using this income and using it for like all these great services, and like you saw that I don't think corporations have any problem letting it. And I think many corporations give a lot of their money to nonprofits, to specific people, which that's a whole nother topic, but instead of giving it to the government because they don't trust what they're going to do with it. So I just think that there may be a loss again, ethics about how they're gaining their profits, which I agree with you here. I think there is a lot of unethical ways of gaining profits, but I don't think anyone should be capped on how much money they're willing to they're making, especially if they are the ones who put in the work and the time and the effort and the sacrifice and all the risk to be able to get themselves to that type of position. I don't think you should be punished because you wanted to make more. I don't know what your thoughts on that.
I'll just say my understanding is that companies like Walmart, proportionally, they pay less taxes than the average family because they find all these loopholes and all these ways around paying taxes. When I my thing is they should just pay their workers a living wage, so they don't have to be on public assistance. Because you're saying like you want small government, so then these corporations they can afford to pay all their employees a living wage and be taken care of for sure.
So what about small businesses?
Well, small businesses, that's they're not, they're like in a whole different category.
But
I mean, the
what
well, like
differentiates a because I this okay, you have a corporation that's just a filing, right? S corp, C corp, LLC, limit liability company, right? So kind of like small businesses would be affected by this as well. So here's an example: if I'm a small business and I have, let's say, a taco shop, and I just want to be able to whip up some of the best shrimp tacos you've ever had in your entire life, but it's a small business. I can't
so,
afford to pay my
um,
guys $15 an hour. And if
my
I
under
have another, let's say, Taco Bell across the street and they're paying their guys $15 an hour, who in God's green earth would work for me? Who would ever go and give me the opportunity to help me start this venture when I can ethically develop and train, hopefully ethically, in a way of making my profits and grow and scale a business?
so in California, when there was a fight for $15 an hour, I'm not sure of the threshold, but I believe it was either 250 or 100 employees. That's like the threshold. Like if you have more than 250 employees and above, then you would have to pay the $15 minimum wage, and anything below that, you're exempt from paying the $15 an hour.
Okay, but if you are a you have a brother or sister?
I have a
You
sister.
told me this. You have a sister, and your sister gets a chance to work for this really cool, awesome mom and pop shop, or the chance to make $15 an hour at Taco Bell or whatever the case may be. Obviously, she's probably way more talented than that, but just for the context, right? Would you want your sister to be paid more doing the same work, right? Right. One's a small business, but one's a corporation, right? What company do you want her to work with?
Probably the small business because
But
they
she's
small
not paying a living
businesses
wage.
are, but it's a long term. Like they're gonna take care of you. Like they're gonna be reasonable with you. Walmart is like cutting hours. Or my sister did work for a corporation, and they treated her terribly.
But okay, then let's do this. All things equal.
All things equal.
All things equal, because
I
this is a real question, right? You have a company who maybe can barely pay $10, right? And you have another corporation who can pay $15 an hour. That small business will never get started.
Small businesses are more likely to hire locally, and therefore, even if it's a little bit of pay, it's still helping the local economy. But corporate, like all these warehouses, it's not guaranteed because the cities have let the warehouses come in and they haven't required a community benefits agreement, which would dictate how much local hires they take. Because my understanding is like Amazon, they bring in a lot of they outsource a lot of the upper management, and then um, the local people they get the minimum wage jobs, and
Okay.
it's not really helping.
I have to press you here. I'm gonna press you here. I have to press you here. We're not leaving this because I think
It
this is a real conversation here. You have you okay. I'm just gonna keep upping the ante because there's no way you're saying this. There's no way. If you had a kid, right, single mother, right, you're saying that you said
I'm never having children, but in
See,
theory,
look,
or
I
it's
okay.
hypothetical.
No, no, look, this is not even hypothetical. This is like actual real world, like actually happening right
There,
now.
there are young people right now working at Amazon. I strike with them in November. They're getting minimum wage or getting their hours cut. They went on strike because over the holidays, they get paid hourly.
Can you turn on my head? Thank you. Sorry, continue.
They get paid. Okay, these workers they get paid hourly, and during the holiday, obviously the warehouse is closed on New Year's Eve or Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. The warehouse is closed, so they miss those wages for those days, and they weren't allowed to make it up. And some people, like you imagine you're shorted 4 days of your in that pay period. You're shorted 4 days for those holidays, and you can't make it up, and you miss your rent. And all they were asking was a $5 raise so they could make up those hours, or some way to make up those hours. And the manager responded by saying, like, oh, you could save money by taking the bus, or it's always like it's always on the worker to like figure out a way, like buckle your bootstraps. But we all know that Amazon can afford to pay all those workers $5. It's like a drop in the bucket. That's what I'm saying. That's the real local what's going on here in San Bernardino.
But okay, okay. Turn me up a little bit more in my head. Okay, so I I agree with you, right? When it comes to corporations, um, corporations putting their employees in a position where they don't feel like they're being in an equal opportunity, right? They're not feeling like, okay, the work and the time and the effort that I'm putting, I don't think I'm getting that work and time and pay for that, right?
Yes.
Um, but again, I think logically and the way this works into my head is that I don't see I don't see the world the way that maybe that you see, and specifically about this because I think this is a big deal, right? I think that small businesses, if wages were raised on small businesses, it would cause the amount of destruction to small businesses that would happen is at a level that people just do not understand. An average person does not care about working with small businesses at all. No, all they care about is how much am I getting paid. That's all that matters, right? How much am I getting paid for the work that I am set doing, right? Which I think is completely fair, right? This is a negotiation, right? And instead of going into saying and say, employee, right? You need to learn how to better negotiate for your wages, right? Instead, it's always on the corporation, right? Saying you need to raise your prices for everyone equally. It's one of the biggest frustrations. The one thing I love, I do a lot of interviews, and one of the biggest frustrations I talk to people about is not so much how much they're getting paid, how much they despise working at a company and getting paid the same amount as someone else who doesn't do anything at all. But this, since they've been at work in that corporation for like 10, 15 years, right? And the corporation sees that person as like, hey, this person's been here for 10 years. They're not going to complain to us. We're going to keep them, promote them, and that's the person we're going to support. It makes them feel like, yo, this sucks. Why would I want to get paid the same amount as someone? I want to get paid what I deserve. I want to get paid what I'm worth. Let's say one employee moves 200 boxes and the other employee moves 100, this person should get paid each box they move. Okay, you move more boxes, you should get paid more, right? Based off the boxes. It shouldn't be a minimum wage. It should be based off of like what that person is able to accomplish in a set amount of time. What they able is almost on a commission basis. So I actually believe, and this may sound a little crazy for a lot of people, I don't believe in any. I don't think there should be any minimum wage at all. I think you should completely strip. There should be no minimum wages in general. I do though think there should be maybe a UBI effect, right? Universal basic income that allows people to be able to get that consistent, to be able to better have more negotiating power when it comes to that, right? But I think it should all be based on the employee, and we should better the education system, put more education and people in a position where they understand how to be able to get themselves in a better place before jumping them, before just kind of saying, you're fresh out of high school, all right, we're going to pay you $15. Like, what? Like, you don't even have any skills. How in the world are you, how are we going to pay you when you have these mothers, 20 or 30 years old, 40 years old, getting paid the same amount as this dude fresh out of high school or in high school? It's just like, this is crazy. This is not real. This can't, like, what have we ever thought that working at fast food, you're supposed to receive a living wage? Like, never, ever. Like, that was always supposed to be the stair step to help you get to go through college, to get yourself in a position to get to where, and since college is being funded dramatically by us, right, by tax money, then there should be it shouldn't be more about like keeping people where they're at. Like, hey, you should be working in a warehouse for as a living wage for the rest of your life. It's like, no, you need to be there, but you need to have a plan to get out of there. I think it's more on the education side. That's just my personal opinion.
I'll just I'll just say, um, like you have the power to organize your workplace and get all your coworkers. This is what
Don't
happened.
listen to her, okay, guys? You don't have
This
no.
is what
No,
happened
listen,
at
guys.
Starbucks. Okay, this is what's happening at Starbucks right now. This is millennials taking what's theirs and organizing, because if you just move on, it's easy to say, oh yeah, just find another job. But the reality is, like my aunt worked at Starbucks. That was her job, and she was unlawfully let go. Like, and there's so many violations. Starbucks has so many violations, but if these if these people like allow this to happen, then like it's just gonna continue. Like then the next person is just gonna keep going. It's like Starbucks is just gonna keep being allowed to abuse people at their workplace. But right now we're saying enough is enough. Howard Schultz can afford to pay his workers, can afford to give health care to his workers instead of forcing people to work part time so they don't get any benefits, threatening to take away health care for people who do have their benefits, but they're speaking up. Right now, they have violations against surveilling their employees, and I don't know how you feel about that.
I don't know what it is about my. Uh, just a tat. I don't know what it is. Okay, maybe that's better. Okay, so okay. So the way I feel, how I see this is, uh, when every time minimum wage is raised, right, more people lose jobs. And what ends up happening is the counter effect of what everyone wants to happen. It happens all the time.
But why are people losing jobs? Is it because of the economy, or is it because the corporations don't want to pay more?
Well, okay.
The Papa John's CEO, when the Affordable Care Act was put into effect, he didn't want to pay for health care for all the employees. He could afford it. It was only going to cost him, I think, 5 cents for every pizza that he sold. He didn't want to pay it, so instead he cut jobs.
Well, okay. So so if you have do you remember when you were a kid, right? You remember when we were like kids and we were at the grocery store and every single line, like every single like cashier, like it was all racked up. You know what I'm saying? All the cashiers were there. You would walk into the grocery store, Vons, Ralph, and you would see like 6 different lanes you can get into. Now, as you go into the grocery store, right, you only see like one or like maybe 2 lanes open, and then there's like all these self checkout lanes. What ends up happening is that your people, people, they're what you're asking someone to do, right? If I paid someone at Stater Brothers $15 an hour to bag my groceries, right? Okay, uh, I just don't see how that's. I just don't see how that's a much of a skill. Now, even okay, I agree with it's not keeping up with inflation. I completely understand this, but I just don't see how that's going to create more jobs. It's not. People are going to end up losing jobs. This has happened countless times over and over again. What happens is corporations are pushed, then they're okay. Then they're going to push this constant back and forth of pushback. Instead of it being saying you allow yourself to grow into these positions, get yourself a stable job, and then while you're working there, find a way to move yourself out of that position. And I agree with you about pushing. I think now it may be super backwards what you think you're about to hear, but I agree with unions. Like I agree with people wanting to unionize and be able to fight for better wages, and group up together and get the stuff. I do have some problems with the way unions are like. I don't like that they have to force everyone to be in union. Should you choose if I want to
That's
be in one or not?
that's a myth.
I don't think it's a myth. I think it's
You could opt out. You could always opt out.
yeah, but then there's a big problem with in terms of opting out. Let's say you don't choose to be a part of the union. Sometimes you don't get allowed to be working at that job. Like there's a lot of and then unions become this like low key mafia. It's really weird. They get to take your union dues and
I'll admit
raise your union dues. Like
some
it gets really
some are
weird.
like mafias or like a
Yeah,
little bit like
weird.
gang culture.
Like really weird. Like
But
yo, what's going on here?
but because of unions, we have a weekend. We would have.
Look, I'm not.
We have a 40-hour work week, which I think we should actually go to 35-hour.
I would agree with that. I don't think there's a problem trying to get less, but I don't think that should be governmentally mandated.
But you know what? I do agree with you about the UBI. I think that's eventually going to be the answer.
What happened to agree with me? Starbucks employees, you don't need to strike, guys. Start your own coffee shop. What this is what it becomes so wild to me. Instead of it always being like, okay, what I'm gonna do is I need to. If I don't like where I'm working, then cool. I'm gonna talk to the homies, be like, yo, listen, guys, we should start our own fucking coffee shop. Fuck this place, right? I'm gonna go and take the homies out. We're gonna go and get our place. We could take out a loan. We can group together, right? We can join our credit and get started. If we think we can do it better, if we think we should be paid more, if we think we know how good process is supposed to be, then let's prove it. Let's go out there and see how we will work in the actual marketplace. But I think people are gonna quickly find out that this is not as easy as it sounds. Millions of dollars are paid for marketing. At any moment, the market can turn. At any moment, something can happen. You're being sued countlessly. People are being sued up the yank, especially here in California. I think there's so much more depth than it is just being like corporations don't want to pay their people more. I think, of course, a corporation wants to make their employees happy. If there is no employees, then they're not making no profits. Okay, hold the phone. Help me. Like, I hear you, but like there has to be some understanding there. Like, there is a sense of like the ownership should be on the employee to put themselves in the best situation possible. Now, again, not everyone's born in the best situation, but I've seen worse stories of people getting out of their situation, growing and putting themselves in a better place. I think we should promote more of that instead of like begging. I know we're going to think this is a bad term, but like pleading, fighting, yelling. over corporations to make changes when they're like, I can just peace out, go to find a company that does like Costco or work for them, find a different corporation who's going to pay me more. Costco's in San Bernardino, and be able to make that transition. I know we're going to go on a back and forth impasse here, but I do always want to let the guests get the final say. So
We're trying to break the cycle because if, like I said, you can organize your workplace, workers have the power. If all those fast food places have been closing because everyone quit, like we have the power. If it weren't for the baristas, you wouldn't have coffee.
you're not lying. She's not lying, guys. Um, I'm gonna slowly try my best to convert you, but
UBI is the answer. We're gonna make the I love UBI.
business corporations make too much profit.
That's our new business, making shirts. Let's say.
Hey, I'm down. UBI on the front, and then on the back of the shirt is gonna be like no more striking. Like, and depending how you feel, you can swap the shirt around. You know. Um. Okay. Start your own business. How much of it all? Okay. How much of it all would it bother you to regularly hear people speak a language other than English in public places in your community? A lot, some, not much, not at all.
Not at all.
Okay, and why?
Because I think it's great. In other countries, they speak like 3 or 4 different languages, and here we are. The average American, I don't know how many languages they speak, but it's probably not many.
So this is I'm 50-50. Okay, I know it's an issue, but guys, that's
50.
I'm gonna get a shirt on the back that says 50-50. UBI 50-50. You know what I mean? 50-50. So okay, I'm 50-50 here. 50% of me says I completely agree. Right? I let them all in. Let's have as much community diversity as better. The other 50% says you need to assimilate. Right? You need to join in the culture. Your goal here isn't to come and change the culture. Your goal is because you're coming here because you want to be a part of the family culture. Example, if we have colonization coming from Europe, Mayflower, get your boat over here. When they hit the land, the goal wasn't to take over the land, right? The goal was to assimilate with the land, be a part of the native people, join them, right? Not change them. This is a big thing I think that's happening now currently. What's going on, I feel, is that you have jobs, right? For example, I have cousins, and my cousins are having a really hard time finding these roles and positions because most people want to see Spanish on your resume. They want to start seeing like other languages. There's now a lot of like Chinese, Korean, and those who can speak dual languages are having not just like what it used to be like, oh, you speak Spanish? Oh, that's a benefit. Like, that's a must. That's a priority. If you're in call center or customer service, you don't speak Spanish, you ain't going to be there very long because when someone does come in and they say, yeah, I can speak two languages, right? That person get kicked to the curb. And what makes it even more difficult is that when someone wants to get into these positions, like let's say you're going through high school, I remember that I would go to try to get high school Spanish class. But what they're telling me is that, no, those classes are reserved for not native, but like Spanish people. They get Latinos, excuse me, my apologies. I'm being very disrespectful. But Latinos, they would tend to have the priority to be able to get to these courses before anyone else can. So by the time I would get the choice to choose, there would be like 1 or 2 slots left, and that would be given to someone who was a top student in the school, and that would be most likely not me. And so I would never get to learn that language. While they get to perfect that class, that craft, and be able to go and continue going, finding jobs in those communities and so on and so forth. So I'm curious on what your thoughts are in terms of that.
Well, first I want to know, which school did you go to? Because that's kind of like...
We went to Etiwanda. You went to Etiwanda too, no?
No, I went to Colton.
Shit, I thought we went to the same school. Etiwanda High School, that's the way it went down.
Because that's kind of racist, to be like...
Well, that's just
giving priority to a certain group or discrimination. Yeah, everyone should Duolingo, guys. Duolingo's free. You can learn a language.
So you're
Yeah, I
okay.
get what you're saying about English, although the colonization thing, I don't know. Because the reason Latinos speak Spanish is because we were colonized by the Spanish,
So, but my,
and the
but
reason we speak English is because we could be speaking French or German, but they didn't want to colonize. They didn't want to keep conquering, so that's why we speak English.
but you're okay with that form of colonization in terms of language, right? But obviously not in terms of like killing and death and the rest of that. So you're okay with like the total the takeover of
No,
English and American
no, I
culture.
wish I knew native tongues. Like I wish I there was more resources to learn how to speak more Native American languages. But because of colonization, that opportunity has been erased.
And and so so even with that in your mind, seeing your language, well, not seeing it, but realizing that your language is gone and not being able to go and learn that, you're saying you're okay with the English language being taken over, almost not in the same effect, but pretty much in the same effect, to the same affinity.
Yeah, because English is from England and those from the monarchy. They
Sounds a little
when the monarchy
sounds a
died.
little I mean, I don't know, I don't want to say the R word here. We can't say that on Twitch. But look, I understand where you're coming from, but I also think that there's I don't know if you can not say concede, but at least understand where
I
that
don't
kind of
see it as a erasure. I see it as just an opportunity to expand and evolve. We we have the you can learn Spanish.
my wife's Korean,
Giovanni.
right? My wife's Korean. Okay. Um, and I'm okay with the fact that there's more cultures coming in. I'm completely okay with this. But
But they need to learn English.
yeah, I think you would agree, no, or disagree here. You think someone should be able to come into the country, right? Um, and start, I don't want to say changing the language here, right? But be in a position where they don't like want to be involved in the culture, but want to change the culture, right? Do you kind of, I don't know if that,
I don't I
like,
don't think English is ever gonna be erased. There's plenty of people who speak English.
I don't know if you, well, I wonder if you can check. Is there a way to look at this up really quick? Can you check the population change? Like, I mean, let's just say white people. I guess we could just go shout outs to all to the white homies out there. I'm just curious on what the population of white people had in terms of like, um, what has happened. If it's gone up, gone down. I'm curious because there's still, if you are correct, right? Like there's still European people, right? And I imagine they immigrate here as well, but
But
not to the end.
not all Europeans speak English. There's Italians, Germans,
Well, even
Polish,
sure.
and the English. The only reason we speak English because the English were like in charge and they like looked down on the Germans and everyone and they like discouraged them from speaking anything but English. And the same with Spanish speakers. A lot of people in a lot of Latinos in the 70s, at home they spoke Spanish, and then at school they could only speak English. Um, I feel like we could all be bilingual.
Mm.
That's where I'm at.
I think I agree with you of being trying to instill bilingual children. Um, I think I wonder I I wonder if someone coming from Europe, Britain, England, right, coming out here to the States is their first kind of like the mentality of like, okay, let me um, open up more Polish shops that speak only Polish, like Polish churches, Polish schools. I don't want to think that's the right term, but like let's say Irish, I don't even think that's the term. Um, Dutch, okay, like Dutch churches. I see them like, okay, let me learn English. I've always seen it that way, but I don't see that from some other cultures, and I know for African American cultures, it's been really devastating for us. Like it's like has really killed for us to be able to get jobs. We are
Yeah.
completely priced out of the market, and I think that it's not a big problem because okay, then you just start your own business. That's the way my mentality is. Like okay, cool, let them in. Yeah, let's start. Hey, come
Well,
on.
and black people were also disconnected from their heritage
True.
because of the way they were brought over.
True. Hey, true. I don't know if you see anything. No.
I'm just looking at. No, but it was 2020. White 60%, Hispanic 18.5,
Oh
Black
shoot.
12%, Asian 5.6%. But
Has it
that's
gone up or
2020.
gone down?
It went down.
Do you see the trend like 10 years ago? I'm just curious. Does it say?
I guess
No.
it's
It's all good.
probably
It's all
not
good.
in
I'm just
focus,
curious. I'm
but.
just curious. All right. Next question. We're almost done. It was not at all, right? Right? You don't see the problem at all. Okay. On a scale of 0 to 100, right? By tens, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Okay. Where 0 means you feel as cold and as negative as possible, and 100 means you feel as warm and as positive as possible. Um, how do you feel towards Democrats? How do you feel towards
Mm,
Republicans?
Republicans, maybe like a 20. And then Democrats, I don't know. I am a Democrat and I've been involved with a Democrat, but I got beef with my own kind.
Where
I
you,
like it's not a yeah, it's not a secret.
where do you see?
I was a Bernie supporter, so they
Mm,
automatically look down on me.
okay, well, okay, well, what do you see on a scale of 0 to 100? I'm curious here.
For Democrat, right now, I used to be like 80, and now I'm like at a 60.
Mm.
To be honest,
You have no home.
I'm like, let's make a third party.
She said, "Look, I'm willing to get a divorce.
In
It's time."
in other countries, they have like 3 or 4 parties, like, and I feel like it's hard to categorize yourself as like either or.
Sarah, can I get more water? Not water. Like we need some more. What do you call this?
Drinks.
we need a special a term for this. Um, um, is there like a Native American drink that we can say like something like cool and savvy that no one knows about? Like
I wouldn't know because I never got the opportunity to learn.
um,
But I'm curious where you stand. No, I'm good. Thank you. I'm curious where you stand on parties.
apple juice. So, um, apple juice, guys. Um,
Yeah, if you
you'll
had
be
to
very.
choose between apple juice or cranberry juice, that's what it feels like sometimes.
Um, I am. You'll be very surprised here. I am like 50-50. And I'll explain. 50-50, baby.
You need a tattoo.
Yo, I'm dead ass. It might be time. I'm 50-50. I'll give you right, okay? I'm not so much a Republican fan. Um,
But you're not a Democrat fan
I'm
either.
not. I'm not a Democrat fan either. I just don't like the approach that Democrats tend to take when it comes to economic issues. I just don't like their approach. But I love the way they take their social approach, like the way they see their social, like the how they see social issues. I think I'm almost in line with pretty much everything outside of kind of the cancel culture. That's something I'm very unagainst, but um, I just enjoy that. So, but I do like the Republican sense of the way they see economics. I just not so Bible thumping, pro birth type of like. I just hey, let people be people. People want to act the way they want to act, right? So. I just don't agree with again. I agree with their economic policy. I don't see. So you kind of see where I land, right? So, I'm a I don't kind of, yes, that's why. That's kind of where my position is. So I'm 50-50. I think some Democrats do good things here, but I'm closer to you. You were 60-50, girl. We're almost on the same team. Like, we're pretty much like literally almost on the same team.
Well,
But we're like 20, 30, 30 points away.
I feel like on paper I agree with democratic values, like Medicare for all, um, uh, sup- um, equal rights for same-sex marriage, abortion cares, health care,
See,
um,
this is healthcare. I think healthcare I kind of
the
do, but
and then like police reform, and stuff like that. But in reality, I don't feel like the Democratic leadership is following that agenda.
too many young people. So we're gonna go into. I'm just kidding. No, I agree with you here. I just think that it's just. I feel like you. I think you feel like the opposite. I think it's too old people or too young. I think is what. Okay, listen. AOC, she the goat. But at the same time, she's like one of those goats that are like that's just too funny. Just doesn't have things together. One of the things that really bothers me, especially with kind of with policies that people put, especially we have young people who are putting things into place, is that I don't think they understand the influence and the amount of changes that one thing can happen to a large swath of individuals. And I think it's thought through. When someone could just say, hey, like an average person, I think more average people should be into the Senate. I think more average people should be a part of Congress. But these are really, really important positions, like really important jobs that, if not taken seriously, right, can lead to a big, big problems for the entire world. And this is kind of where I get into where I love the spirit of the Democratic Party. I love the fact that they can bring out people in droves, right? But I also think that they're just kind of like weekend warriors.
I'm like, can they bring up Joe Biden barely won the last election?
But that's my point. They're just like on Twitter.
They're not.
They're on Facebook, YouTube. But they're not really like. They're just
nationwide. I don't feel like the Democrats are inspiring. Like, I feel like if Joe Biden runs again, it's gonna be a low turnout.
I think if Joe Biden runs again, he's probably gonna win.
Like by the same, probably like barely win again, but I feel like it's gonna be a low turnout because people aren't really inspired. The only reason Joe Biden got elected because everyone was like, I don't want Trump. Everyone's like,
but what's gonna happen? What's this?
Repeat.
But that's exactly what's going on now. Trump is about to run.
He sees the.
He's running. He's gonna say, "Hey, look, I'm trying to go after it." If DeSantis doesn't do it, then you're gonna have what I'm saying, a repeat. And I'm not voting for Trump. That's just the it is. But at the same time, like, I'm really not gonna vote for him either. I'm not voting for Biden either. So I'm probably gonna vote for
We need a third.
my boy libertarians.
We need a strong third party.
Go for the Forward movement. They're doing good. You know about the Forward movement? Andrew Yang?
Oh.
Join our side. You don't want to be on a Bernie side no more. Aren't you tired of this? Aren't you tired of being disappointed? Join Andrew Yang's side. Let's get this popping. Brand new whip. Just hop in.
I'm used to disappointment.
Yeah, I'm a huge Andrew Yang. I love Andrew Yang.
But I focus on local stuff. That's
more effective. I think we should get into that because that's
a good segue.
That's really, really important. I got a few more questions. I'm almost done. Okay, guys, I'm sorry. Okay. Which of these statements best describes your opinion about the United States? The U.S. stands above the U.S. stands above all other countries in the world. The U.S. is one of the greatest countries in the world, along with some others. There is other countries that are better than the U.S.
There are other countries that are better than the U.S. Because I'll tell you why. Because other countries, they don't want to send their kids here because we have mass shootings. When I just graduated from USC, two students who were visiting from China, they got carjacked and they were killed like instantly. And it's like how safe is the way the world views us, like how safe is our country right now?
I'm on the second The U.S. is one of the great countries in the world, along with some others. Um, I think we don't rank well in many different things. I think there's that one show, right? He says we're ranked third in like 28th in like I don't know if you've ever seen that video.
Education.
Yeah, like he's just going in. So why is United States the best country in the world? He's like, we're not the best country. You seen what I'm talking about when he goes.
Yeah.
But it's a good show. Yeah. But moral of the story, I'm definitely on that lines. I do think that America is one of the greatest countries in the world. I don't obviously believe we're where we used to stand, but I think what world's better. If we weren't, then why would so many people jump here, transplant themselves to this country? Why are so many individuals trying to come here and stay? Right? It is interesting as more people are talking about leaving, but in the reality of things, I think more people want to come than go, because no other place is as free as here. Even if we are not as free as we should be or used to be. So, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. You always get
I mean, obviously, we're people from Guatemala and El Salvador. They've been coming here because there's so much violence in their home country, and they don't see any other choice. But I see the pitfalls of America. Like I said, we have mass shootings. The um, the amount of women that die during birth is like
Mm.
it's like it doesn't make sense. Like in a country like the U.S., why are so many, especially black women, they're dying at super high rates during childbirth. Um, the COVID, like so many people died from. We probably have the record number of people that died from COVID. Unfortunately, like it's sad, and like we need to do something about that.
Okay, guys, it's getting spicy in here. Almost done. How much of a problem, if any, would you say each of the following are in the country today? Problem. Okay. People being too easily offended by other things. By things others say. Major problem, minor problem, not a problem. Okay. And people saying things that are very offensive to others, right? So again, how much of a problem, if any, would you say each of the following are in this country? People saying things that are easily offended, and then people are saying things that are very offensive to others. Major problem, minor problem, not a problem. Let's just start with people being too easily offended by things others say.
It's a little bit of a problem.
Okay, that's not on here. Okay, minor problem, major problem, not a problem.
Minor problem.
Okay, why?
I think the real problem is we don't have a robust education system to teach people like about other cultures and disabilities and other orientations, and people say offensive things and they don't really think about it, like how it's going to affect someone else. Like there in some ways there's like been a decrease in empathy, like with COVID. Like everyone's like, I don't care about your grandma. Like, and there's like a lot of trouble with that. But I also think like sometimes you have to let the little things go. Not like, yeah, some some people, they get really irritated, like little things that don't really matter. And like I've been lucky, I learned to like brush them off easy, but I know a lot of people, they get really irritated by, and I'm just like, why?
So what do you think about then so people saying things that are very offensive to others? Do you think that's a major problem, minor problem, or not a problem?
I feel like it became a major problem when Trump was when Trump was running for president. He made it okay to say like outright racist things, misogynistic things, and it kind of took us back.
I think okay, people being able to easily offended by things others say. I think that is a major problem. I'm sensitive now.
You become more
I'm
sensitive.
so soft. It's annoying a little bit. I used to be very, very good about the way I used to handle, especially people saying something to me. I have very thick skin. Um, but I'm now letting things affect me. I think the kind of the mental health crisis that's going on now is a big problem. So I think it's a very major problem. Now, people saying things that are very offensive to others, I don't really see that as a problem because it doesn't matter what you see, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can never. But so I think that people are really starting to. I think it's the opposite. People are starting to really internalize things because they don't have defense against them. Always.
It becomes a problem when like Trump was saying all these things about like Mexicans are rapists and all these like offensive things, and then people internalized that, and then they went and shot up like in El Paso. They shot up a Latino community. I think that's obviously a problem. Yeah, I think we just need to educate people more and like teach empathy and teach people how to deal with their feelings. I think that's really the solution.
We still all crying in the corner. I think we agree. I would. I'm.
But also,
I think
like,
it's maybe a minor problem, but I think I would concede a little bit there. But I do feel like, yeah, continue.
no, I was just gonna say also like if someone doesn't like you or whatever, like sometimes you just gotta let it go. Like not everyone's gonna like you, and
She said, take advice from Elsa. Okay? Let it
let
go.
it go.
Let it go. Okay? Which comes closer to your view of candidates for political office, even if neither is exactly right? I usually feel like there is at least one candidate who shares most of my views, or I usually feel like none of the candidates represents my views well.
Well, nationally, Bernie was like my candidate. Um,
So is it there's at least one candidate who shares most of my views, or none of the candidates
well,
represent my?
yeah, now I would say most of or at least one of the candidates. Before it was like, well, my views have evolved. So
So none of them are doing.
no, I would say I would agree at least over
Just
a
shoot,
long
guys.
time. I would.
She not a Bernie. She's not Bernie anymore. Okay. She can't say it right now, but I'm telling. Anyway, so she's done. I'm just kidding. No, but so technically Bernie still holds most all of them your values.
Yeah, currently, I agree with Bernie. Um, I'd say when I was younger, I was more like moderate. So like there was at least one
You're
candidate,
moderate.
at least one candidate that I agreed with. So that's like been consistent.
Okay. I personally am none of the candidates are on my.
None of the except for Yang.
Andrew Yang is actually I had to give it to you. That is close because he believes in the economic and the social things. I agree as well. So I think you might be right. So shout out to Andrew Yang. He the goat. Okay. In general, how much do oh shoot we're getting straight into it. In general, how much do white people benefit from advantages in societies that black people do not have? A great deal, a fair amount of deal, not too much, or not at all.
I would say a fair amount.
Oh, interesting. So there's a slight privilege.
Yeah.
Okay. And in what areas?
Well, obviously, you're less likely to get pulled over and shot by the police.
Is that true? I don't know if that's true. But okay, but
I've never been pulled over. Knock. Knock. And I don't know if it's because
tonight's the night, guys. We had too much apple juice. Sorry, go ahead.
I don't know if it's because I'm light skinned or
Right.
what.
Okay.
Yeah, I've never been pulled over.
So
and
the way I see this is I think equally. I'm gonna get destroyed for this, but I think equally. The reason I feel this way is because white people have definitely structural in terms of like historical privileges that they have gained, but black people have a lot of cultural right gains as well. You don't see black people dominate sports. They dominate like in these areas that are really benefit, like entertainment, like in droves. Black people have better contracts than most. Now, are they represented in an over way? I obviously don't think so, but I think it's appropriate for how much we make of the country, right? Like 12% or so. We're not that much of the country. Um, but I do believe that there is specifically um, systemic problems that are happening uh, that has been a persistent thing over long periods of time. Um, so I do see economically they have a very, very good advantage there. And I also would say definitely the justice system, government wise, structural, they have a very good benefit there as well. But I don't know if law enforcement is that big of a deal. To be frank with you, I just don't see law enforcement being the biggest problem. I do see that it is like judges, jail systems, incarceration. I think that is a big problem. Officers taking people to jail. We do a lot of crime. It makes sense. We should be pulled over more. We should go to jail more. But I don't think we should be convicted at such a higher rate. I think that is something very different that's happening. We don't even. I think there's a percentage. I think only 2 or 4%. Give me corrected, but 2 or 4% of actual people who are being convicted actually goes to court, like sees a trial. 98 to 96% of people who are in like prison and jail, they never even got to see a day of trial. So I think that I think there's a big problem with the justice system, and I think that when they do convict, African American people are convicted at much higher rates than white people, and I think that is something that should be addressed. I don't know. Any final thoughts you want to?
Well, I'll give you an economic example.
Okay.
There was a lady, a black woman, she was trying to sell her house. So she had two realtors come appraise her house, one when she was home, and then she asked her white brother in law to act as the homeowner, and guess who got the higher appraisal?
Um, I don't think I have to guess. I think we both know the answer to that one. Okay. Uh, Almost done. Do you think greater social acceptance of people who are transgender, people who identify as gender that is differently from their sex that they were assigned at birth, is very good for society, somewhat good for society, neither good nor bad for society, somewhat bad for society, or very bad for society?
Good for society.
So somewhat good or very good,
Very good.
and why?
Like, what does a person's like gender identity have to do with you? And I think it's ironic that people are saying about they don't want to accept people's pronouns or like being called by a different name. Well, we all know, like, we had a kid in class that their first name was David, but they're like, oh, I want to go by Johnny or something, and the teacher just went along with it. But now these people, transgender people, they want to be, they're saying, I want to be called a different name, but they have a problem with it. I think it's a double standard.
Um, I think I don't know if I agree with the same premise as you, but I do agree that I think it's is neither I think it's neither good nor bad. I think it is them different. Like more black people in America, I think it's good neither good nor bad. More white people in America, I think it's neither good nor bad. I think obviously racial things are very big here. Gender roles are very big in America. We tend to put a lot of stock into that. Um, but I think in actual reality, I'm not sure how benefit is. So, for example, there's big studies coming out right now that I wouldn't say big studies. Let me backtrack here. There's content videos, articles that we put out of how do I say that? I don't want to be disrespectful here. There's a term they call um, men who dress up as women, drag queens, right? And they're
Mm.
going to like children's schools and libraries, and they're teaching children how to twerk, right? And like I don't mind a transgender lady queen,
Woman.
right? I don't mind a drag queen going and reading a book to children, but I don't care if that was a lady. I don't care if it was like Beyonce. Why is anyone training, teaching, showing kids who wants to learn how to twerk. I think there's a weird cultural shift that's happening. I think it's the way that some transgender people conduct themselves, just like there's ways that some black people conduct themselves that are just inappropriate. And as long as that is not happening at a high scale, then I think that is completely acceptable to have them in society, and I think they should be welcomed with open arms. But if they're acting in ways that that's just like outlandish, I just kind of feel like why? I thought you wanted to be a part of the society. I didn't know you wanted to be like the limelight of society. I don't know if that makes sense or not. But I can go more in depth if you like.
Well, I would say, like, why is it okay to like, push like sexualize kids toward heteronormative like relationships? Like when you're in kindergarten, you're like, ask your little cousin. Like it's totally normal to ask your cousin, like, oh, do you have a girlfriend or something? Like pushing that as like a heteronormative, like it's normal. Like I don't think any of that is normal, whether it's heteronormative or whatever.
I think it is normal. I think so. I think that's normal because like um, in Native American culture, like it's always been. It's us. This goes back to like our ancestors. Like people have always were very curious about other people. Especially like when you grow up and I have a thing and you don't have a thing and we're like, do you have a thing? Like, no, that you don't have a thing. Like it's a people, children are very curious. They're constantly trying to learn. I think always asking, like, I've heard this girlfriend. I'm gonna start asking everyone, do you have a girlfriend? Do you have a girlfriend? I think it's very normal for children to want to go in that range. What I don't think is normal is for like 6-year-olds to be like, I'm not a boy, like I'm a girl. And then for parents to be like, cool, let's just do gender reassignment. Let's get you signed up. Let's get you in there. Like 2 years old, 4 years old, 3 years old, taking them in. Just like, that's a big, like, I remember what I really, really, really liked when I was a kid. I was like, I was a weird phase, okay? But I would like sneak in, get my mother's like nail polish, right? And I would get the clear ones, and I would just put the clear like nail polish on my hands, right? But if my mom was like, okay, we're gonna give you surgery, and I'm gonna give you like red, like nails for the rest of your life, I would have regretted that decision
Well,
forever, you know. So I think that there's a sense of just like it should be a little bit of like stopgap between that. For those who are of age and they want to go in transition, absolutely. This is why I think instead of it being very much like push, 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 more, um, uh, I guess, saying that they're very good for society, I think that it is a form of some gender dysphoria. Let's make sure that there's mental space for them, just to make sure that everything is good and that their transition to that role is positive. It's not in like I'm doing it because I don't know what else to do and I don't can't live with myself the way it is. I think that's very very not good, in my personal opinion.
well, that is what's happening. The parents are taking their time. It's not just like that's. I feel like that's a myth. Like it's not just like, oh yeah, they find their son painting their, like, one incident painting their nails. These parents are not taking it lightly. They look for the resources and figure out like if this is the appropriate thing for their kid. Um, and if and it's at the end of the day, it's their kid. It's not our place to tell them. But the reality is, it's not being pushed. Like it's not after one incident. Like, oh yeah, let's just like take you down this path. Like it's a long process, and certain governors have definitely made it harder for parents to follow that path. Um, but instead, like help. And there's a difference between because you could identify as trans and not ever get surgery. Like there's a difference between your biological and your how you present yourself. I think that's a big misunderstanding. And um
From my
yeah, I think
understanding,
we just need more education.
I would agree. I think that there's definitely should be more education in some of these areas, about like because this is I want to say fairly new, but I definitely think this is something that's not as as uh, um, popular or as normal as modern society has had in the most recent future. But I think, like I said, I'm very open to opening up with open arms and say, hey, look, let's bring more people to society. I think that it should just be more positive. It seems very it seems very negative in terms of the way that's been going on. It doesn't feel like they're very happy with their decisions. It's like, this is the decision I'm making because I don't know what else the decision makes. It just seems like a very mental health problem, gender dysphoria issue. And so if people, because from the stories that I have been reading, articles that I have been reading, obviously videos I have been watching, I just have noticed that a lot of it is coming from a place of just like, again, that kind of gender dysphoria, don't know who I am, what I am. And most people get this information from whether it be social media, and that's the only place that they can find it, educate themselves on it. And a lot of these people are not clinical, psychologists. They're not, they're not accredited, licensed therapists. They're just random me and yous doing a podcast just like this, and they're like, you know what? I feel like that sounds like me. It's like Googling your illnesses and just saying, you know what? That sounds like me. And then they just sign up for it. So I completely agree with you. As people are making these decisions for themselves, but I think they should have every right to do so. The hope is that they make sure that they put themselves in the best position possible to not hurt themselves, not obviously regret things in the future, because that's some things you really just can't take back. Hopefully, it's just I think what you're referencing is cross-dressing, and it seems like, I don't know if I'm wrong here, but like just saying, hey.
Yeah, it's not cross-dressing.
Okay.
And I'll be careful about comparing it to illness.
You mean the gender dysphoria? You mean that type of?
Well, wanting to change your gender identity is, yes.
What how would you reference it or phrase it? Isn't that the clinical clinical term for it?
Like mental illness.
Well, it is. Isn't gender dysphoria a form of mental illness? No.
No, it's not.
Is that not true? I thought gender dysphoria is a form of mental illness. No.
No, it's not.
Okay. Well, then if I'm wrong, I'll take that complete back. But
this is why we need education to learn, so people understand more about it.
Okay. So so essentially what it seems like what you're implying is that this is a natural form of occurrence of what's supposed to happen with people.
It's just the way I see it is just something that happens, just like sexuality, like you don't decide if you're straight or gay, like that's just the way you're wired.
That's interesting.
And then for people with gender identity, they believe that they were put in the wrong body.
Yeah. I had to do research on this. I would love to do a talk about this, a full podcast, because this is something that I have like a pretty open view about this specific space.
I'm not part of this community.
Oh, you want to stay? She want to stay out of this one. She's like, put me in here, coach. Well, I'm down if you want to go and have a conversation about it. Super interesting. Or if you know anyone.
I'm happy to. Yeah.
If you have a reference of someone too, I'm down to have a conversation. But I would love
from that community.
Absolutely, I would love to jump into it because I am curious about that space. What in the world? Sorry, I don't know where that came from. Okay, so almost there, guys. I think we're almost at the final stretch. Overall, would you say people who are convicted of crimes in this country serve too much time in prison, too little time in prison, or about the right amount of time in prison?
Probably. Well, yeah, I would say too much time.
Yeah, I would think it'd be too little time, depending on the individual. I think for sure, though, I think we're on the same perspective here. It's just, yeah, I think we agree. Which of the following statements comes closest to your view? Religion should be kept separate from government policies. Government policies should be support religious values and beliefs.
Separate.
I agree. Separate church and state. Okay. See, look at this. We're locking through it. Okay, in the future, do you think U.S. policies should try and keep it so America is the only military superpower? or it would be acceptable for another country became as military powerful as the U.S.
I don't believe in the military, so you're probably the opposite.
Um, okay. I definitely think uh, I don't think you need to have the most powerful military. I think that's not the. I think you do, but it depends on what we're talking about here. It's not just about like having the most biggest missiles, the most powerful nukes. I think it's more just having like cybersecurity, like
Mm,
there's cyber warfare
I
going
get.
on. So I think there's 100% should be a really
I
strong
just
military.
I just don't understand why we need enough nuclear energy to bomb the whole Earth like 9 times over.
Interesting. So, so are you talking about nuclear energy or just nuclear bombs?
No, I'm talking about military power. Like,
Okay,
why do
good,
we
good, good.
need
Okay,
that
okay,
much? Why do we
okay.
need that much military power?
Yeah, I think you just want
If
to keep people from not
if
messing with you.
if you bomb the Earth, then it's like that's it.
No, I
the
understand. I
the
agree
rest
with you
is a
here. I'm
waste.
a peacekeeper. I'm not much of a fighter, but I do think you want to make sure that you're. Yo, this is so interesting. Okay, let me see what this says. Um, you are a progressive left. Only six, along with 6% of the public. You're 6% of the population. How does that feel?
I feel special.
um, uh, so this is just what it says. Progressive left, the only majority white, non Hispanic, Democratic oriented political typology group, have very liberal views on virtually every issue and support far reaching changes to address racial injustice and expand the social safety net. They are among the smallest typology groups, but also one of the most politically engaged. Dang, this thing is on point. They feel less warmly toward the Democratic Party than established liberals or Democratic mainstays. But those who voted in the 2020 general election were nearly unanimously in the support of Joe Biden. The, they are the only group in which a majority say they like political leaders who identify as democratic socialists. And I don't know if you.
Yep, I am a democratic socialist.
Interesting.
Wow.
Interesting. I think we have learned each other today. I am after
Are we
all
still?
this. I
We're
am.
still cool.
Yeah, dude, it's dope. She thought this was gonna
This
be the last
this
time
is
she's gonna be on
what
the show. She's like, "You're done." No, I'm a classical liberal.
this is what we need more of though. Like
I agree. I think we should have more conversations. People should have more conversations like these. Um, and I know I'm gonna get bombed on Twitter, and you're probably never gonna see me again. And this is GG. This is the final career for us. It was fun while it lasted, guys. But no, I think that I think it's important to have these conversations. Well,
Mhm.
I'm grateful for you be joining us today, and kind of hopping in with us and having this conversation, going in depth with it. Um, um, and I know one of the biggest things the final thing we wanted to touch, which is localism. One of the biggest things that you've been fighting for, specifically, just in general with what you have been doing in your own political life, but especially recently. Can you go a little bit more in detail with what localism is like, and why is that so important to you? Definitely right now.
so, localism is prioritizing your community, and trying to if you see like a problem, like trying to fix it, or if you see a way to make your community better, like just going for it and not trying to. I feel like historically a lot of cities like to try to compete with each other or like model each other, but that's not realistic. Like each community is unique and different. As I saw from traveling to Georgia to campaign, like what works there is like um, good for that community, and like we have a different way of doing things, and I think there's always opportunity to learn certain things that we could learn from each other. Like I liked in Georgia when I was campaigning, everyone for their party it said undesignated,
Mm.
and I thought that was interesting. That because here in California, when you register to vote, you have to declare a party, and it seems to promote like tribalism. Like you have to stick to that party, and like you could always change it, but most people they just stick to the party they registered with, and they never stray from that, or like or they're not open to hearing other people's opinions. And I thought that was interesting.
I think I agree. And I think that local, if you really want to make changes, start at the local level. I think a lot of people look at the national level, mainly because it's just kind of what a lot of people are talking about. It's on national TV. It's always being talked about on Twitter. Every time you jump in on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, it's always the biggest thing that's popping into your feed is just like what's going on a government federal level. But I think people really discount what's happening on a very local level because that's really what you're going to see the changes. And if someone gets involved in those levels, the ripple effects will happen on a national stage. Yeah, it's not going to happen next month. It's not going to happen next year. It probably won't happen in the next 5 years. But if someone is able to make these changes over X amount of years, 10 years from now, they're going to start seeing the policies that they've been promoting for so long actually making changes, hitting the floor in Congress, and being able to kind of get pushed through the Senate, so on and so forth. So I completely agree with you here. I think the uh, local, local politics is really important. I don't know if we agree on how to get that done. I think the most important thing above all else, which is local newspapers, I think that is beyond underrated. And if people want to start making a real difference in their community, they need to get in touch with their local newspaper. By getting in touch with their local newspaper, that is where they're going to find the most effective ways to be able to go and figure out what, get in contact. That's where you build your connections. Start with your local newspaper. Pick up, just literally buy a paper from them and just read through what's going on locally in your community. And you end up finding a lot of things that you can make a difference. Whether you believe in my views, whether you believe Ms. Beltran's view, it doesn't matter. I think that's a good place to start. But what about you? What do you think is a good
No,
way?
I agree with the newspaper. And I also think like any opportunity to make a community and meet other people and exchange ideas like where you don't have to spend money because I feel like sometimes that's a barrier
Sure.
to people. So like libraries,
Mm.
we need like libraries are so important because you're not obligated to spend money, but you could go there and learn what's going on in the community and meet possibly meet someone that you wouldn't have the chance to meet otherwise.
I think that that social interaction with people, being able to kind of touch hands, is something that's very underrated. I think we, as COVID had hit, we became very, very attached to the phone. Even prior to that, obviously being millennials and Gen Zs and Gen Xs and so on and so forth, been in this kind of technology space. But I think people are so really, really going to start to realize, like, wait, there's a big part of life if we can just be able to sit down across with someone, have a conversation. You're able to realize, look someone in the eyes that this person's not really the enemy. Maybe they're just, maybe we are all, and in some way can fight alongside on certain things, not everything, but being able to challenge each other, learn from each other, get a part of your own community. You start not hating your neighbor, but I think you start understanding your neighbor, and by the understanding of things can make things a lot easier um, to kind of drop the, I think what I would like to say, um, the political kind of like confrontation, the very divisive. I hate you. You're on the other side. It's gonna start breaking down these walls. If people can start talking to people, not just from the other side, but be able to talk to people just the people in their vicinity, they're around them. So one of the things I love about you specifically is the canvassing side of you, going out to the community. When you went out to Georgia and being able just to talk to the community, you learned so much, and you be able to get a better connected about what other people are dealing with, and it gives you a better support. Like it enriches your soul to be like, whoa, there's so many things that I can do on a local level too. So yeah, I love that. Is there any final thoughts, questions, anything that you have for me, or anything at all for the guests or anyone else who might be tuning in?
I guess just to piggyback off of that, like, yeah, I just encourage you to learn more about your neighbor. Like, um, I know most of my neighbors. I could probably, and I know like most of the people on my block because I've canvassed it many times for myself and under the candidates. I could probably do a better job of like learning more about the people because some of them is just like on you just like wave hi to them and um, but you'll be surprised like what you'll learn about someone who lives on your street and
Yeah, the people that you kind of like, you we call them the passerbys, the
mm-hmm.
people you pass by every day. We are part of the passerbys, and that's kind of the whole goal of the podcast is to try and give the light to the people who are in some way making some big ripples, and I think that's kind of cool overall. So, um, but that's it. That's all we got here, folks. We are done. We are out. Poof. Benghazi. We have we are ready to go, and it's time to to end the stream. And we really just thank you for everyone who kind of just tuned in and chopped shop with us, and yeah, it's been kind of cool to kind of interact with you guys and see you guys in not just something like our TikToks and Twitters and Facebooks and all that, but it's just been fun nonetheless. So thank you so much for joining us, Ms.
Yeah, it was
Beltran.
great.
And hopefully we're still friends.
Yeah.
And we'll see how this goes. After that, if you see us, when we bloody faces, you know what happened after the stream. That builds character, guys. So awesome. Thank you guys. Welcome to the After Dark edition. He's excited to be back, and expect this on a 2-day. We're gonna do this every Tuesday and every Friday of every week. We're gonna be knocking one of these out. So bringing on new people. Obviously, we gotta bring the stretch. I'm gonna get more sharpened. I'm gonna start bringing articles. I'm coming with this smoke, girl. I'm about to come with
With the receipts.
yo, all the receipts. Like, nope. Check this out. Your boy's ready. And then you're gonna come with a lighter and be like, nope, that shit's not been peer reviewed. I'm like, fuck, shit. It's a Bloomberg article. Anyway, so thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for being on the show. And yeah, man, just have a safe night. Be safe. Peace, love, and happiness even after death. Peace.